In this segment, we will be talking about the traveling treasures of King Tutankhamun and other archaeological news and new theories with our researcher, tour guide and Egyptologist, Mr. Bassam Shammaa, especially now that more than 160 artifacts of King Tutankhamun are traveling the world, and now they will be on exhibit in a South California science exhibition. Welcome with us.
Thank you very much for having me, and what a beautiful day to discuss such a beautiful history.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Bassam, to start with, as Rasha just mentioned, about 166 artifacts of King Tut are in exhibition in the US, in California. How do you see that, and to what extent the world is still eager to know more about the boy king?
Civilizations are two types. An ambiguous civilization that you don't see a great deal through its monuments, because there are no carvings, there are no texts, little bit mysterious, ambiguous, unclear. And the second type is a civilization with clear-cut features. It's like a facial clear-cut feature civilization. Having said that, we still have a great deal of mysteries in our ancient clear-cut features civilization. One of which is our boy golden king, Tutankhamun, who we call him today Tutankhamun. Number one, about the exhibition. A huge sign, King Tut, and the people are standing in front of the sign and they are taking pictures, including our authorities. This naming is wrong. We shouldn't have let California put this huge sign of King Tut. The Americans, our friends, who I work a great deal with, also they call him King Tut. Okay, so I make jokes with them and I say, there's nothing called King Tut. There's Tutankhamun. Of course, the famous song of Steve Martin, King Tut, and it's funny and all of this. But I'm talking about the hieroglyphs. Now, Tutankhamun, Imen, the sun god, the invisible, the deity, the mythological deity, right? Tutankh, so Ankh, alive, living life, to be, verb
and
to be.
Tut, the image.
Tut, the image, thank you very much. So when you say King Tut and you stop, you are actually calling him King Image. Which is totally wrong. There is no king called King Image, right? The living image of Iman. So we have to complete the whole name. Just like when you are introducing me, with us today is Mr. B, not Bassam, right? Number two, 166 pieces, 60 of which never left Egypt before, which is an amazing number. The 166 is an amazing number. And I'm a bit kind of cautious about traveling, or as I call it, flying museums. One, the flying. That's my problem number one with museums.
It starts with the plane,
with the airplane, right? The airplanes and what happens to airplanes. We hope safety to everybody, but accidents happen. Right?
Like what
so
we
cannot take the risk. Once you use pieces, will never ever be written. I mean, you will never ever be happy. It's history. It's history. And literally, the slang word is going to be history if you lost it. God forbid. Number two, California is famous for its earthquakes. And you will be amazed. In 2015, NASA declared that there will be a huge, remarkable, that's how they described it, a remarkable earthquake in California in 2018. What happened that I came up on the media and I say, guys, be careful, there will be an earthquake in California, as NASA mentioned 2015. And in this beautiful building, I was allowed to show the charts of NASA in Maspero, saying 2018 there will be an earthquake. Guess what? Some weeks ago, when the 166 pieces been exhibited in Los Angeles, a huge, remarkable earthquake, 5 point something Richter scale, took place. Okay, it didn't affect, but it took place. So thank God that everything went okay. Don't take risks. Plus robbery, and also plus imitation. People now are being very, very talented, evil talented, in imitating statues.
Especially with modern technology now,
Exactly. Now there is the 3D. Remember what they did? They caught this person with some small machine in front of Nefertiti's bust statue in Berlin, and they found out that this is a 3D thing that can actually make a typical head of Nefertiti in Berlin. And they caught him and what's this? And show us the machine and so on.
Yeah.
So going back to Tutankhamun, yes, a guy who is still bothering us, thinking about how he died young, 18 or 19 years of age, called him, some people called him the youngest king ever mounted or being enthroned on the throne of Egypt. Surmounting the throne of Egypt, this is wrong. Tutankhamun was not the youngest king ever, dealing with ancient Egypt. Youngest king ever was King Pepi II, who took the power when he was 6. And he died 100 years of age. So he ruled 94 years. And then he died, because people die. Right? People die. That's what happened to people.
At the age of 100 is quite
he lived
long
well.
life. Yes.
He lived well.
He lived long, yeah.
Yeah. Now, there are so many questions on my mind, but I'd rather start first by the exhibition touring. It's going to tour 10 cities, and they are saying that it's to celebrate the 100th anniversary.
Yes.
And since it was been discovered in 1922, so the 100th anniversary is still couple of years ahead. Does that mean that it will keep on touring till the 100th anniversary?
Thank you.
Yep.
And what would happen to it being packed and unpacked for even if it's 10 cities as mentioned? How do you see that?
When it was declared that it's going to go around for 7 years, and then we went up and we did all the volcanoes that we did, somehow now I'm feeling that this 7 years is not being mentioned a lot by the authorities. So probably, or maybe, or perhaps they are rethinking and reconsidering
But
this
at least
business
now it
of
will
7 years.
remain in California till January 2019.
And I hope it wouldn't be out when 2022 will be around. They were talking things like Asia and Australia and going around the world and so on. Tutankhamun, now you are going to open, 2018, you're going to open
The
a
Grand
kind of a
Egyptian
soft
Museum.
opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum. Now, why I wanted to open with minus 166 pieces of Tutankhamun? Why? Number 6. Number 7 is you are now talking about regaining tourism. Now, you want to regain tourism. Why are you sending our monuments out? You want to regain tourism, keep it in. So
We
that
want the people to come,
in.
not yes. indeed.
Right? So here is another thing that tourism but having said all of that, I can see where they are coming from. I can see where the Ministry of Antiquities and Tourism coming from.
Yeah.
I can understand what they were thinking of. I disagree, but I understand.
Yes.
Number 1, they said that there is a huge amount of kind of security and insurance and so on. I say, what insurance
Yes.
if one of those pieces are lost? Plus, you will be amazed to know that there is a hysteria going around the world, since the 1990s, robbing and stealing from museums. You would be amazed what museums were robbed in the last 20-25. You would be amazed.
Yeah.
2 museums in Germany, 1 in Boston. 2 people wore an outfit of police and they entered the museum and they took $500 million worth paintings in Gardner Museum in Boston. Hello, 1990. 2 people dressed like policemen. We saw this in black and white movies. Is it still happening? Like that.
Yes, and Bassam, you have said that we are going to talk about the photos here that you have
right.
brought us concerning King Tutankhamun, and we can start to see the photos on
Thank
the
you very
screen.
much. I sent some photos dealing with my theory how he his life was ended, and actually this business of did he fall off his chariot wheel, hit his leg,
the knee injury
and
or
the
not?
knee injury, and then he died. Hello, we invented medicine. Didn't we invent medicine?
Yes.
The king of Egypt, the son of the sun, the legendary guy who's coming to become a deity, mythological deity.
Yeah.
He is going on a hunting picnic on a chariot wheel. Then he falls off the chariot wheel. Then all this army of doctors behind him with nurses.
But
and
how do you see
helpers.
that theory, Bassam?
I see it very naive, my dear. I see it terribly naive. Because if you said that the guy hit his leg or his knees, as you said, Rasha, and then he died, so where is the medicine that we invented before Tutankhamun some hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years? Where is Imhotep? Where is Hisira? Where is all those where is Irinakti, all those famous doctors? Of course not, number one. Number two, there is not one. I've been reading history now for over 35 years. I say, with all modesty, I challenge anybody who can put on this table a text that says that Tutankhamun fell off a chariot wheel. There is not one even sign in a sentence which kind of imply that he fell off a chariot. Where did the story come from? The story of him falling off the chariot wheel. Where did it come from? Where is the origin? Where is the text or the scene or the depicted scene or the drawn scene that you got this idea from? Nothing. Nothing.
And we can see a head of Tutankhamun in the form of the sun god.
Yes, thank you very much. Now,
coming out of the lotus flower, but the head only is visible. Yeah.
This wooden statue. Thank you very much for saying his neck is emerging from a lotus flower. Yeah. This is the birth and the rebirth of the king from the mythological point of view. The king is going to be born from the lotus flower. And the neck, which is thin, and then the head, which is very kind of unflattering realism. Unflattering realism. Yeah. Now, when you look at this kind of beautiful made statue, made out of wood, what do we notice? We notice an opening, a huge opening, going through the edge of the eye on the left side of the king's head here.
The crack on the side?
Exactly. Now, the crack. And that crack was the subject of media in the last 2 weeks. Because when I introduced this, there was a reply. No, this is crack due to heat. This is crack due to heat. Let's take a look at the coming pictures. Yes, I said this is not a crack due to heat. I said this crack was made deliberately. Exactly.
So were they fixing it, like putting it together?
Actually, I thought that was done deliberately.
Why?
Deliberately.
Why?
Now, I looked some years ago when I started the theory, some in the 90s, 1990s, and I looked through, and anyone who visits this beautiful statue, take a closer look at the inside of the crack. I noticed, I could be wrong, it's a theory, but I could be right also. I noticed traces of chiseling, which to me spells that the artisan made this opening deliberately, probably sending a message to the afterlife deities. Our king died being hit on his left side. Let's take a look at the coming picture.
So
now, where did you get this story from?
Maybe he died in battle. Would that can that lead
and
to
since Tutankhamun did not achieve any battles, as far as we know, he didn't get involved in military.
It's debatable in a sense because we have now a new theory about his armor being worn.
Yes.
Then we have scenes of him on the chest, and we have in some of the temples in Luxor. And there are talks that even if the king was not a warrior because he was young, at least he'll ceremonially lead his army.
Okay.
So to what extent can that be the truth?
Symbolism is the name of the game in ancient Egypt. So the scenes of him attacking all this enemy with his chariot wheel, which you see on the chests and the boxes of Tutankhamun, this could be a symbolic scene of him being the brave guy. Him being the man who destroys all the soldiers of the enemy in front of him. A bit of an exaggeration. That's a theory as well. So you mentioned something that we can discuss, and I'm mentioning to you all these scenes can be symbolic. Since we don't have a true story or a true text which is confirming that he went to Asia, for example, or he traveled down to the south, for example, and he attacked tribes in Africa, for example. So symbolism, I lean towards the fact that these scenes were all symbolic, including the shield that you mentioned, Rasha, before air, right? And this shield, you say, there is more than one shield, military shield, for Tutankhamun, yes, but also this can be the shields which will be added to the tomb to be symbolically proven that the king is a military hero.
Yes, and we are seeing here a kind of skeleton.
Thank you very much. Here is another dilemma. Howard Carter, right? When he found the coffins and all of this, he wanted to remove the amulets and the golden mask from the coffin and from the wrappings. So what did he do? he invited Dr. Douglas Derry, D-E-R-R-Y. Dr. Derry was actually working in the medicine university here in Cairo. And he said, we can cut all the stuff from around the body of Tutankhamun. The result is amazingly depressing. Derry, in the presence of Howard Carter, achieved, if you would like to call this an achievement, a very negative thing, that he cut the mummy, the body of the king, of the boy king, Tutankhamun, into 16 separate pieces. Now, as I'm talking to you, the body of Tutankhamun is 16 separate decapitated head, neck from the body. Exactly. Why?
Because it's too stiff. They wanted to take away the things that were attached to it, and the resin makes it glued to the body. So accordingly, it's malicious. It's a vicious thing to do. But they were greedy. They were concerned about the treasure rather than the body of the king.
It's evil. Who would allow somebody to do that to his grandpa? So I say, for England, we should have an official apology because of what Derry, Douglas Derry, and Howard Carter did.
Of course.
Now, if you take a look, Dennis Forbes, a very famous man in history, made a piece of work that big, and from there, he started to tell us. Dennis Forbes, British, who told us about what Douglas Derry, the British, did. Let's take a look at the coming...
So the next image.
All right.
Maybe the next one as well, because this is more like
this
a label.
This is more like the other. Let's take a look at the second one, please.
The second photograph, please. Until it's on screen. Another thing about Tutankhamun is that during the past years there were so many excavations and work on his tomb, and there were talks about the different anomalies found behind the walls, and then it was said, oh, there are discoveries. No, there are no discoveries. The scanning is correct, proper, the scanning is improper. So how do you see that?
Okay, when the kind of introduced an Egyptologist, I would put it between two brackets here, Nicholas Reeves, I said, I don't want Nicholas Reeves inside the tomb. Why? Nicholas Reeves, as it was mentioned by the head of authorities of antiquities then, he was sent out of the Valley of the Kings. He was stopped from working in the Valley of the Kings at the beginning of the 2000s. And then he returned again with Jeffrey Martin. Very famous Egyptologist, Jeffrey Martin. Very nice man. And then he was out. And then he was in. And then he was out. So why are we bringing a guy for the third time to go inside the tomb of Tutankhamun? Now, one of the interesting...
It's parts of the face
the golden mask.
Statue.
Now, what I did is, the golden mask in black and white paper, I sat and I started to draw lines between certain parts of the face of the golden mask. And it was beautifully done, rectangular shapes between the lips and the nose and the tips of the eyes and the eyebrows and the eyelids. Beautiful. Until you find out that on the left side, it's more swollen than the right side.
Even the golden mask.
In the golden mask, as we can see easily on the picture, and the red lines and the numbers of centimeters that I mentioned, as you can see it on the screen. Finally, in the mummy itself, a lesion. What's a lesion? Medically, is when somebody is injured, clotting of the blood takes place. The king died when it's still clotted, which means that this injury, whatever it is, it's an injury. It's blood clotted. It's still very visible in the mummy. So circular like so on the left.
And fell, and that would coordinate with what you've said about the head of the lotus
I say
flower.
he was hit. I
Not
said
in a battle, you mean? Maybe he was assassinated.
Hit by a rival who wanted to take his throne too.
Yeah, maybe.
So assassination, I'm talking about.
That's what I mean. Not killed in the battle, but maybe assassinated.
Because as we said, there is not a proof, at least my knowledge, that he get involved in a battle. All right? So until something else will be proven. But for the time being, I would say the political situation then was a kind of in trouble, as we all know.
We had the followers of Amun and the followers of Aten, and Tutankhamun shifting, and
So
God knows whether he was forced or
was it King
he
E
wanted it.
or I, as they call him wrongly? So was it E? And why E is drawn in the tomb of Tutankhamun? Isn't that the most strangest thing? We have two kings on the same scene in the Valley of the Kings. In a temple, that's fine.
Explain that?
But in a tomb...
But that's usually because usually the heir is the one who's doing the funeral rituals. And since he's not an heir, so he wanted to give a testimony that I'm the rightful successor, because actually he was just...
gives himself
I wanted
the
to
legitimate way to reach the throne.
Yeah, because he
right?
was
So
the
what
prime
do I
minister,
do
he
to
was
reach
not
the
a
throne
royal
if I
blood.
don't have a legitimate way to reach it? One, I will perform some opening of the mouth or whatever of the celebrations. But why did I put my cartouche? King E was not a royal guy, right? He didn't have the power, or he didn't have the right to mount the throne. So why am I mentioning myself in a tomb of a deceased king, 19 years of age, and his cartouche, which means I am the king? Two cartouches, two kings in the same room. Don't you think this is a bit of I'm trying to prove I'm the king of Egypt here?
I think he's trying, like when we look at Cheops' funeral boat, where we found his son putting his name on it to say, I buried my father because we had issues with the household of King Cheops over succession. Maybe that's what I is doing here, that he had issues and he wanted to say, I'm the legitimate king. Could that be the case?
Issues is the word, yes. Yes, I think he had issues. I think he had a great deal of issues. And don't forget a letter. Here is another mysterious thing I will tell you. Think about it, tell us. The letter. Egyptologists found the letter, but no name. Here is the frustrating thing. No name for this letter. My husband died. I have no kids. I have no children. I am afraid. Now, here is a royal lady who has no kids. Tutankhamun, no kids. Two kids died young. Very young. And premature and so on. Right? Number two, my husband died. So where did in any part of our history we heard those three words or three phrases coming from a royal lady?
And especially to ask it from Asia.
Letter, and then she's sending it to the enemy.
Syrians.
For God's sakes, what are you doing? The Queen of Egypt is sending to Asia, to the enemy, come send your son, I will marry him and put him on the throne of Egypt. This widow, this royal widow, whoever if she was the widow of Tutankhamun or not, she was a desperate lady.
Indeed, big time.
And I say big time, and I will add, and she was in a way also a traitor. You are sending to the enemy, hello. So anyway, I'm telling you, at the end, there is no end.
Actually that opens more questions about maybe there were struggle between Mohib and I over the succession, but unfortunately we have to wrap up this segment, but we still have to discuss more about that.
Indeed, Bassam Shammaa, our Egyptologist and lecturer in Egyptology, always a pleasure to listen to your very interesting stories and more to come, hopefully in the coming episodes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you very much. And now we will be going to a quick break, but we'll be back for more on Breakfast Show, so stay with us.